Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Everybody, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 726. It's July 27th, 2022. I am your host, Nick Henderson, and I'm joined tonight by Brad Simons.
Greetings.
Nolan Hedstrom.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm excited to talk about video games.
Yeah, as am I. Christopher Guthridge.
Hello.
And Christopher Davis.
Video games are good for you.
They can be, sometimes, I guess. Welcome to the show. Like I said, we got a lot of video games to talk about tonight. Before we do that, though, a little bit of quick housekeeping. I was going to talk about this before the show, but I decided, nah, fuck it. I'm gonna talk about it very openly on the podcast. This might be shooting myself in the foot a little bit. I had a little conversation with Brad today in the Vagrant Story channel in Discord. And I have decided to put that game down. But Brad's already laughing. He's over here laughing.
Put it down again.
No, I didn't put it down. I had every intention of playing it, you motherfucker. This guilt trip has been killing me. No. I played it for like the past 3 days in a row and felt like I was not making any progress at all. And, that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. And I've been struggling to keep my head above water in terms of, like, all these games that are coming out that I do want to play. But Brad has assured me that he has a lot he wants to say about this game. And I am familiar enough with it that I can talk to him about it. So we're going to record that podcast for the Revival Club this Sunday. And we're going to get that out to you guys. And on
I
that
agree
note,
with the first part, at least.
What was the first part you're agreeing with?
I'm not trying to guilt trip you, Nick. I just think you're a wah-wah baby. But we'll talk about it Sunday.
Yeah, is that what that podcast is going to turn into?
No.
Oh man, but you know what? I gave it an honest try. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to record a podcast. Brad has a lot to say about it. And on that note, in terms of the Revival Club, like I said, I've been kind of struggling to keep my head above water. So in the interest of not immediately jumping back into the deep end by adding another Revival Club game, I'm going to say we're going to wait until September to do the next one. Just want to put that out there. I need to catch up because there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to play, that I want to play, and I don't feel like throwing another game on top of the pile. I made the hard decision today of saying I'm taking this off the list. I'm moving Vagrant Story out of the list of games that I'm playing right now, and I instantly felt...
All right, just stop. You got to move on from the topic. I can't keep a straight face here.
I know. Anyways, I'm going to have a conversation with Brad about Vagrant Story this weekend, and we'll get that up for you next week. It's going to be good. But we had a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. A lot of video games. In fact, all 5 of us have a game to talk about, a different game to talk about, which is, it's kind of rare. So we got that. We got some big news, including GTA6 rumors of some Black Panther game in development, apparently, and some unfortunate news about KOTOR. We'll talk about that in the second segment. But unless anybody has anything they want to open the show with, anything y'all want to get off your chest, kind of like I just did. No? I see some hands going up. Or Krispy's maybe thinking about something?
No, I think we should get into it. I will say so we're not doing our normal, what'd you watch last week discussion to open the show. Oh yeah, everyone saw Nope. I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's really good.
I haven't seen it yet
either.
Is that only in theaters?
Yeah.
I have been watching Nathan Fielder's new show on HBO, The Rehearsal, and
it seems crazy.
I leave my body every episode. It's like it is the funniest and just most. Oh god, I don't know, man. It is
I've,
crazy. It is
I've
fucking crazy. Like the first episode, you watch it and you're like, "Wow, this is insane. How can they top that?" And then the second episode is like 10 times more insane. Like, I don't
Wow.
know, man.
I watched
I've never even heard of this, to
one
be honest.
clip and it was very funny. It was very funny.
Yeah, it's like it's really surreal. It's one of those things where you're sitting there and you're like, these people aren't real. And they say something or they do something that just like keys you into the fact that like, oh wow, no, they are and they're crazy. Like
What is this show? I've never heard of it.
it's okay, so do you know who Nathan Fielder is? He had his
I think I've
biggest
heard the
thing was
name.
that his
Nathan
biggest
for
thing
you.
yeah, he had Nathan for You on Comedy Central where he would go to businesses and be like, I can help your business. And he'd come up with a plan for them, usually like some kind of publicity stunt, but it was always like fucking dumb as hell. And just designed to be obtuse and just designed to get reactions, right?
That sounds like
Like poo
sabotage.
flavored frozen yogurt.
Like that's the pilot is he's like a promotional stunt where one day you'll sell poop flavored frozen yogurt and like it got people in the door but like dumb stunts like that, right?
Did it actually taste like poo?
Is as close as they could get it. Like they
Yeah.
got a factory to like make an extract that tasted as close to that as they could, like
But who had to
working
taste
off the
actual
smell.
poo?
Working off of the smell, you know.
Okay,
Oh.
this is wrong. As soon as you started talking about Nathan Fielder, I
Yeah.
opened my Twitter and he was fucking trending. What
Yeah,
the
because
fuck?
he's trending every
Yeah.
week because his show's
Yeah.
insane. The whole premise of the show is that like he finds people who like have a social problem or something like that, and he helps them like get through it by establishing these like incredibly elaborate like psychotic level rehearsals. Like we're gonna practice going through the situation, and like the first one was literally just like a dude was nervous about telling his group of friends that he plays pub trivia with that he didn't have a master's degree. For years he's been telling them he had a master's degree and he didn't. So they like built the fucking bar where they play pub trivia in, like a replica of the bar in a soundstage, not just the inside but the outside too. And like they hired all these actors to play all these different people, and then like he rigged the game so that because the guy at one point was like, oh yeah, I'm really nervous to talk about it. I don't think I'm gonna bring it up if I'm like doing poorly in the game as well. Like I need to focus on the game first because I love pub trivia. So like then Nathan's like, okay, well how do I get this guy to win without actually like making him cheat? And so he like rigs the fucking game, and the guy's it's I don't know, man. It's
Here's the only question I have as like a follow up.
yeah.
Do they do the rehearsal and then actually have them do the actual thing they've been
Yes.
rehearsing for?
Yes, and then they record it, and it's like real. It's real, like the heart of man kind of stuff. It's like the substance of the soul. Like it's insane. Like how moving and humane and like actually like substantive it feels in the moment, while also being just like the most absurd, funny, uncomfortable thing you've ever seen.
All right, that sounds hilarious and amazing, but I know I couldn't watch it. I can't
Dude,
handle
you
the
have to
basic
try.
cringe.
You have to try it. Like you might break through into like whole new levels of art, Nick. Like,
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Uh, real quick admission. So I just finished watching season 3 of The Boys, and let me tell you, I was real close to starting season 3 of The Boys while my in-laws were in town and just kind of hanging around, you know. So I was like about to.
It's a
I
good
was like,
thing
you know,
you
what?
didn't.
It's like maybe I'll just start watching The Boys. We're all hanging out in the living room. I didn't. And then I started watching it after they left, and I was like, "Oh my god, just dodged a bullet!" Because if you've seen that opening episode of
A
season 3 of The Boys,
termite-sized bullet.
yes, oh my god, it takes a lot to put my jaw on the floor. But Robin and I were both watching it, and our jaws were both just firmly planted on the ground. So, yeah, just wanted to get that out there. All right. We got to get down to business. Like I said, we got a lot of games to talk about tonight, and I'm going to hand it over to Krispy actually with the first game. He's the opener tonight, as we discussed, right? Yeah, you've been playing V Rising. Right?
I'm here to get everybody in the mood to party for whatever these guys are going to talk about later.
Yeah, that's safe.
So, I've been playing a shit ton of Monster Hunter lately, as some of you know.
Yeah.
I bought that game on Steam like 2 months ago, I think, and in that time, I've done 150 hours on it. So I'm kind of like I'm in the end game, and I'm kind of at the point where it's like there's a title update coming next month, and I just need to like
You just
need
need
to
to
pump the brakes
decompress.
for a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and get excited about it again because I'm kind of losing it, right?
Right.
So I started like looking around my library, like, oh, what do I want to play? I started playing Valheim. I actually played like 8 hours of Valheim over this last week.
This motherfucker.
Very fun game. Uh, very fun game. Really like it. I feel like I'm having a hard time getting over the initial humps of it. It seems like there's a lot put on you early on to kind of like get anywhere where you're like doing something really cool. And I'm so afraid of like playing online, so I'm just playing on a little private server, and it is exceedingly lonely. Like it just feels so lonely. Like that game feels so lonely. Like I don't even know how to explain why. It just does. But I was liking the crafting thing, and I was just looking around on Steam, and I was looking under the tag open world survival craft. What do we got, right? And I
Yep.
came across this game, which I'd seen before, was already in my wish list. I didn't buy it because it's in early access. It's still in early access, but I was looking at it and I was like, I don't know, man, this is a really cool idea. It's a lot of fun. You're a vampire. You're in like a land filled with humans, and you're trying to like rebuild the might of the vampires, and you're gonna build a castle and become more powerful, and like you can like drink people's blood, you can make thralls and create servants, you can like transform into animals and stuff, like do all kinds of cool classic vampire shit, right?
Right.
I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll try it, right? So I bought it and I started playing it, and um I don't have that much time on it, and maybe that's why this is an opener, because I'm not super far into it. I'm not very deep into the mechanics yet, but already it's a pretty cool game. It's really fun. It's like I don't know. Like I've been thinking of it as like Diablo meets Valheim kind of.
It's a
Like
little
a little
Diablo-esque.
bit. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say like Don't Starve because it's got that like isometric survival thing going on. Um, but it is really cool both on the like world exploration and combat front. Like you get all these really cool powers. You build different kinds of weapons. You get different armor, and you're going
Did you
around.
build like a castle?
You do build a castle. That is the main thing of the game is building
You
your castle.
create new vampires by biting humans. Like, do you have to
No, I
sire
don't.
them?
No, I don't think you do.
Ah.
You get an ability later on called like Kiss of the Vampire or something like that, where you can enthrall people. Like you can like glamour them and enthrall them, and then make them your servants, and
Mm-hmm.
and make them do stuff for you. So like they'll run mission like resource gathering missions for you, or they'll go like attack people for you, or they'll stay and defend your castle for you, because this game, like other open world survival games like Rust or something, or even Valheim, if you're on a public server, your castle and everything just exists persistently in the same world as other players. So
Oh.
I'm playing on a multiplayer map right now. There's like 12 different castles around, like on the continent that I'm on.
Mhm.
Um and your your stuff is protected to a point. Like eventually people, I think they can like craft bombs and stuff and just like blow open your castle and go in and steal
So,
things
do you
if
have
you're on
to
a
defend
PvP
your
server.
castle from
If you're on
generations of a vampire hunting clan?
a you
I
might.
see what you did
There's
there.
what is interesting is well, I mean, okay, this doesn't really have anything to do with what you're talking about, but I'll use it as a jumping off point anyway. Uh, one of the main ways you progress is you fight boss characters, just like a lot of other survival crafting games, like Valheim or something. And as you defeat them, you unlock new powers and you get new recipes. So you do have this like blood altar in your castle that like has a list of all these different bosses that you go fight. And so far, like where I'm at, a lot of the bosses are like this like mystic archer, like other kind of like humans who would hunt vampires, And I have seen vampire hunter characters that are like way higher level than me, just kind of like roaming around out in the wild. So, I mean, that is cool. It is a very threatening world to you. And you can see on screen right now, I'm dealing with sunlight. That is a big
but you're
thing.
just walking through the
I'm
sunlight.
just
And I was like,
walking through sunlight. A big part of the game is avoiding the sun, right? Obviously.
as one does,
Why wouldn't
as
it be?
one vampire does, yes.
Because of that, they have a really robust like lighting and shadow system, so you can go out and do stuff during the day as long as you stick to the shadows. If you stand out in sunlight, obviously you start getting burned. You have a little bit of a grace period with it, and then you start getting burned, and it's like the single biggest source of damage that I've encountered in the game. So it is really important. And early on, you're not building a castle yet. You're building like a fort, right? So you're just making like palisade walls out of wood. This structure that you see on screen right here is a player castle,
Oh,
but
I
it's
think
not
that looks
mine.
like a church.
Oh, I think actually no, I don't think it is. But that's what they look like. I don't know if that is or not. I don't think it is. It's not marked on the mini map. But that is basically what they look like when you start building castles. But first you're building like wooden forts. And when you build a fort, you can't build a roof for it. So like even inside your fort during the day, you have to worry about sunlight. So you have to like build these magic braziers that you burn bones in, and they create a mist that shields you from the sun while you stand in the radius of it. But yeah, I gotta say, like, it's really fun. Even like at the low level I'm at, it kind of like begins to nail that like vampire power fantasy. Like you're just running around like turning into a wolf, and then you like run into a bandit camp and start like fucking slaughtering people, and you can like suck their blood. And oh yeah, the blood drinking mechanic. Like all the NPCs in the game have different types. There will be like brutes and rogues and soldiers and I don't remember all of them, right? But they all have different types. And if you drink different types of people's blood, they give you different bonuses and different like kind of passive effects. So it is really neat. It's like you can always kind of look and see what somebody is, and so that's like I don't know, that's a pretty cool mechanic. And blood is not your health directly, but it is what like powers your abilities, and you can turn blood. You have a power that can turn blood that you drink into health for you, things like that. But yeah, it's a really fun game. I think it's really a really like interesting mix. It's doing both things really well, and I kind of feel like even survival crafting games that I love, I always feel like there are aspects where it's like, oh, I gotta like fight something. Well, that sucks because fighting sucks in this game,
Right.
Like I hate having to like stab or shoot anything in Subnautica, or even Valheim. It feels a little like I just got a bow in Valheim to hunt deer to get the trophies for the first boss, and it was like an hour of me chasing deer and like shooting them with a bow and just being absolutely frustrated with the whole situation. Like didn't like it.
I'm sitting here trying to recall if there was ever a moment when I actually had to like shoot or stab something in Subnautica.
It was yeah, I mean like you could like stab fish and stuff to collect them for food.
Yes. Carving the coral off the side of the well, that's pretty frustrating. Do we know where this game is in terms of like in its like early access
Transylvania?
path, you know what I mean? Is this near the end of its early access thing, or is this a pretty new? Do you know what I'm asking?
They said, yeah. They said that their goal is to leave within a year, within 12 months, and it came out in May. So
okay. So
not
pretty early.
Super far. Yeah.
Right.
Not super far.
I
But
mean,
there's a lot. There's a lot like in there already.
Yeah.
Like it's
I mean,
not.
this game came up a lot on like with this launch. This is probably in May when it first launched. It came up on 2 different podcasts that I listened to, and they were both kind of raving about it. And then it got kind of quiet. But then I think that's kind of just the natural path of like anything in early access these days. It's really hot when it first drops, and then you don't hear much about it until it hits 1.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like when I get more comfortable with the game. I really want to try playing on like a open PvP server.
Yeah.
but I've heard it's fucking brutal. Like it's real rough because you just like every time you log off, somebody comes and fucks with your shit.
No.
And I don't know if it's like Rust where they do like frequent server wipes. You know what I mean?
I wonder if they're gonna try and balance that kind of stuff out because that would be really frustrating.
I don't know.
Over-
I'm sure that's a big part of the lifespan of the game, but I haven't actually played it yet, so I don't. I can't say that it's bad. I've just heard that
Right.
it's tough.
So, question. The humans that are roaming the map, the villagers,
Mhm.
how do they react
Oh, they hate you.
around a player castle or a player base?
They don't go near 'em. They don't go near 'em.
Oh,
When you
damn.
when you build your castle, one of the basic units of construction is just border, and that's just like this is my territory, and you can build next to roads and stuff, and like the humans will walk past them. I think like there are usually humans around my castle, but they don't
Right.
go up to it. Like they don't. I don't think they cross into the border. I could be wrong. If somebody knows the answer to that, let me know.
So theoretically, if you were to find a group of villagers, piss them off, and lead them to an enemy base, they wouldn't do anything?
I don't know.
Would
I
you
don't
go
know.
near Vampire Castle, Chris
I don't know. I
Davis,
mean, you can
as a
definitely
human
do
being?
that. You can
I mean,
definitely do that
if
as
I've got a
far
bunch of
as
other people with torches and pitchforks, maybe. I want to
you
be
can
popular.
you can definitely aggro NPC characters off of each other though. Like if you're out exploring around, you will like there's a whole bunch of just like wandering bands of like bandits and vampire hunters and villagers and things like that. And they will aggro you immediately if you're in your vampire form or your wolf form or like something like that. There's actually a power later on you get that disguises you as a human, so you can like walk through human cities and towns and stuff without pissing anyone off. But all the time while you're out in the woods, you'll just see like a group of bandits getting like jumped by a bear and like getting fucking murdered by it and things like that. So you can run enemies who are chasing you into other things in the environment. You could, I assume, lead them to another person's castle. I just don't know.
What they would do, like how they would
Yeah, and
react.
and like they're all it just depends because they're all territorial. So like they do have that thing where after a while they'll stop chasing you and run back to where
Right.
they come from.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
hopefully once it leaves early access, maybe it'll be in there. Because that would be a great way to kind of take out enemy players. Kind of building up a posse and leading them to the enemy castle and just
If
letting
that
them
is
go
in
town.
fact, if that is, it is a survival game though. That's kind of,
Yeah.
I don't, who knows? Who knows? I guess we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. But it got a little ways to go before we know the answer to those questions. Anything else you want to add about V Rising?
No, I mean, I think
Pretty
I think
good.
I've covered everything. It's really fun. It reminds me a lot of Don't Starve, which I played a lot of way back when, early days
Yeah.
of me being around here.
I wish me and Crispy would have finished our playthrough of that. It was fun.
We played
Was
for a
that Don't
while.
Starve Together? Is that what it was called?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
We played that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
Cool beans.
Is there an end game currently in early access?
Oh, I don't even know.
He's,
Okay.
he's
I
pretty
don't
early to
even,
know the answer to that question.
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like this is a very early impressions kind of thing. I'm probably gonna keep playing, and
Sweet.
maybe I'll learn more about it.
Who doesn't love vampires? I know I sure do. Speaking of very early impressions, I want to just quickly talk about As Dusk Falls, which I started last night on the feed. I say early impressions because I've only played about an hour and a half of the game at this point.
Has
But
Dusk fell yet?
yes, it has actually. Right around the time the title card hit, which actually happens in this footage. Yeah, so if you recall, this game was announced. This was part of Summer Games Fest? Or not Summer Game Fest. Summer Game Fest, the fake
It was
E3,
one of the
whatever.
events in the past few months, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, one of those things. And this is on Game Pass. It's a Microsoft exclusive, but it's one of those narrative adventure games with this really kind of unique art style, and like animation style. It's very like kind of like I don't know if stop motion is the word I want to use, but like characters on the screen are. It almost kind of looks like what's the movie everybody likes to compare this to probably. Come on, Crispy, help me out.
A Scanner
Animation
Darkly.
is a stretch.
Yes. It looks a little like a Scanner
Oh,
Darkly
yeah.
in terms of its just aesthetic, and the characters, they don't animate fully. They kind of like move in between, like they'll jump frames, right? So like if a character like turns to close a door, they'll turn and then it'll like skip ahead and then the door closes, and it's kind of like stop animation thing. It's actually a really nice effect, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but it looks really nice. I will say this: I installed this on Game Pass. Holy shit! The base install was like 60 gigs or more. And then there is on top of that, once you get into the game, there's like an option to install like a high resolution assets pack, which I did, which was another 40 gigs, and I
Oh
can't
my
even really
God.
tell the difference.
This game's 100 gigs.
Yeah,
This is just like a
Red Dead
Telltale
Redemption
style
2 is like
narrative game.
105.
I know.
Are you playing this on like 1080p, Nick? Because it might be like 4K assets or something.
One thing I didn't try, and
higher.
this is so I did notice last night when I was playing, there wasn't an option to do 2K, which is what I normally play at on my monitor, and I noticed that wasn't an option. And then before I recorded the footage, I installed the pack, and I didn't think to go check the resolution and switches. That's probably why I didn't notice much of a difference. And now I feel really dumb. I should go do that because now I have 100 gigs worth of this game on my computer.
Okay, it's so weird. What? This is weird.
What?
This
What? I
the
haven't even
visual
talked about the
style.
game.
What are they going for here? This is it's odd, for sure.
I mean, sure, it's a little odd. I mean,
It's
they're
unique,
going.
I guess. But
It's like a visual novel in motion. I mean,
It's like
that's
an
really what they're going
FMV, but instead of being FMV, it's at stop motion. So I mean, it seems like they literally hired actors, like had them pose, had them like do stuff, but instead of like recording them, they potentially just took
Well, no,
photos of the.
they had the actors do all these scenes and they recorded them, and then
That's what I'm saying.
they
Yes,
have
and then
the
they're
entire
taking-
scenes like on the in the game files apparently, since it's 100
They're just-
gigs.
they're just-
Maybe.
But they're
just
only
not-
showing you little
Yeah.
jumps.
Like
of
the raw files, not even like compressed or anything.
Well, here's the other part, because so real quick, just to kind of give you an idea of what this game actually is. It is a very kind of on rails story. You're not moving a character around. Kind of the only interaction you have is making decisions at key moments, and you can look around with the cursor and kind of like find things in the environment to interact with, which will then open up new possibilities, new choices to make, and kind of like create this branching path. And after I finished the first chapter, it shows you like kind of like what Quantic Dream does, where it shows you kind of the branching paths, but like it does it way better than I think I've ever seen a game do this. And it's like super detailed and like super clear. It kind of shows you like where your choices kind of like went, and you can kind of see visually, like a very easy visual representation of like, okay, there's this whole chunk of the scene that I just didn't see because I made this very specific choice. And it gives you the ability to go back and replay those scenes and makes it like have a lot of control over where you kind of insert yourself back in, so you can make those decisions and see how the alternate paths play out. But like one thing I didn't realize too last night, as soon as I was booting it up, is there's a broadcast mode. So like my first session playing this game last night, I was playing it with the community. It was connected to our Twitch channel, so people who were watching could vote for like the decisions as they came up, and it gives you the ability to overwrite people. It gives you 3 overwrites. So like, you end up in a situation where you have to make a tough moral decision, and I say I want to do this, and half the people in chat are like, no, do this, punch him in the face, and I can be like, no, I'm going to overwrite you, but then I only have 2 more opportunities.
So I heard about this mode, and I heard that like that type of like chat chooses is a little like too goofy for like some of the subject matter here.
I mean, no. I mean, here's the thing. Like all the like so far, I'm only in chapter 2 right now, and real quick, kind of the general setup of it. Like you play it as of so far, there's 2 main kind of like groups of characters and you're kind of controlling you're making decisions for one specific character from each group. One is like a family who is now moving across the country to St. Louis. They're moving their family for undisclosed reasons. The father lost his job. He was an airplane technician, and he was blamed for a horrible accident that caused a death. And he signed a settlement, and now him and his family are moving across country to kind of start over. And then the other group is these three brothers who live in this small town in Arizona. I think it's Arizona. I think it's called Twin Rock, Arizona. I could have butchered that. I don't know, but they have a grudge against the local sheriff, and they go and they rob his house, and that's kind of the setup for their story. And then those two groups of people, their worlds kind of collide. And I don't know where it's going yet. Like I said, I'm still very early, but like all of the character work that they've done so far, all of the acting, all of the writing, most of the decisions I've had to make are tough. Like, and are really well done. Like, I haven't really run into any examples yet of something being too silly for the subject matter. It is pretty serious, but like almost every decision I've made, I've been like, oh my god, how am I supposed to make this choice? And when Twitch is playing or the community is playing with you, it might be a situation where it's like you as a father are trying to make a decision, like you are now in a hostage situation and you're trying to protect your family, you would think, right? So your family is here, and it's like, okay, in this situation, as a father, like you have these people holding guns to your head, and it's like they're demanding you do something. Typically speaking, they tell you to do something in that situation, you would normally, it's recommended you just go along with it, you do it. So like, I'm trying to do that, and chat's like, go for the gun, and I'm like, no. But there was one time when I did kind of let that play out. And it ended up with this really dramatic cliffhanger for the chapter. The story could have progressed, but it didn't. It kind of caused the chapter to kind of like, that was the stopping point. And then today, when I came back to capture the footage, it was like coming back after this like dramatic cliffhanger, and it played out in a really interesting way. So like, so far, a lot of the decisions have been really interesting, and the general setup for the story, I'm already, it's got me. I'm totally invested in this. I want to know what's going on with these brothers, why they hate the sheriff. The sheriff seems to be shady. Something about the sheriff's wife is apparently not happy with him, and like this family has some crazy shit going on.
I wouldn't be happy if my husband was a sheriff.
Right?
Like the kids break into his house. Sorry, this is like very, very, very early spoilers, and you may not even see it because depending on the decisions you make. But like the kids break into the sheriff's house at the beginning because he's at work, and they're looking for this safe. They found out he has a safe, and they're gonna try and steal the money out of it. So they're like looking through his house trying to find the safe, and then the younger brother goes upstairs and he opens a door, and his wife, who is in a wheelchair, is in the room, and they had no idea she was there. And like you have to kind of deal with that situation, and then depending on the situation, like the choices that I made resulted in her like, and she also can't talk, like she writes everything down to communicate. So like I'm going through like all this stuff trying to deal with her, and then my decision led her to like, she picks up a pen and paper and writes it down, and she's like, the safe's in the office, and like she's like helping me out, and I'm like, oh shit, she's like helping me rob her husband, and I want to know what's going on with that. So like, I don't know. I'm totally into this story so far. I'm very, very, very early, but I'm definitely gonna keep going.
That was like, break her hands, so she can't write.
Like, no, she's having this moment where she's like looking. There's like a panic button. Like she has like, she has like a hospital bed in her room, or whatever. So there's like a little panic button next to it. So like the choice is like, do I try to calm her down, or do I jump across the bed and like swat the panic button out of reach before she can get to it, or do I stop the wheelchair? Because she starts like moving towards the thing. And I was like, oh my god, I don't know anything about this woman. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to calm her down, but I also don't want to like stop the wheelchair because that's awful. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Cat gets to decide how long you hold the pillow over her face.
But Jesus fucking Christ, Brad. The point is, like, every time there was an opportunity for the game to like, a decision may seem odd at first, but like, even when I went with those kind of sillier choices, it always kind of kept the tone in tune with what it should be.
I mean, I would probably say it's not too unsimilar from like a Telltale game where
right.
there's not so much of you decide what's going to happen, so much as you decide when certain things are going to happen. Because I think it's one of the things where inevitably a lot of the stuff is going to end up, you're going to end up at the end of the story.
So I will say this, like as just kind of an example of like how a minor decision could cause a really dramatic branching path. When you're trying to like find the safe in the home, you're looking downstairs at first, and you have the choice of kind of like it shows you the living room, and it doesn't highlight anything. You have to kind of like pan around and like hover over things, and then it'll be like, oh, do you want to look on the bookshelf? Do you want to look here? And his wallet is sitting on the coffee table, and you pan over the wallet, and it's like, okay, do I want to investigate his wallet? I only have enough time to make a choice for like one or two things. So I ended up looking through the bookshelf, and then the scene progressed, and I didn't get a chance to look in the wallet. And then in the middle of this like home invasion, he comes home because he forgot his wallet. He has no idea his house is being robbed. Like he doesn't see anybody in the house when he first comes in, and he walks by and he sees the wallet on the table, and doesn't get alerted to your presence. And if you had,
so you're thinking if you would have interacted with the wallet, then maybe he'd be like, "Oh, where's my wallet?"
He'd be suspicious, and like it would change his path. And like you can see when you look at the branching paths, like you can see exactly where you did not pick the wallet, and you can see this whole thing that kind of like branches off from that is grayed out because you didn't do that. So it does a really good job of kind of illustrating like the impact that your decisions have made. And so far, like the story has been, I think this is kind of some of the best writing I've seen so far. I mean, again, I don't know where this is going. It could still very much go off the rails, but kind of based on the critical reception I've seen of this game so far, a lot of people seem to be pretty positive on it. So if this kind of keeps on the trajectory that it's on, I could see myself really liking this game by the time it's all said and done. And it's on Game Pass, guys. It's on Game Pass. If you have Game Pass and 100 gigs on your on your hard drive, I'd probably recommend it. So I'll leave it at that. I also finished Stray and Madison.
Well, look at you.
But
I was Stray in the end.
It's cute, but inconsequential. I don't know. I don't know how to say that. You are a
cat. So
I know it's a lot of people are very. I mean, it's a good video game. Stray is a good video game, but I can't bring myself to really say much more about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All right, why don't we go to
got your tongue?
That was good.
There it is. You know what, Nolan? I think that earns you the ability to go next.
All right.
What do you bring in tonight?
Do you not know, or
it's called oh my god, you would grill me on this. Timberborn.
There you go.
I was about to call it Tiberium or something.
Very different.
So I got an itch to play Timberborn. It is what is the way to describe this? A kind of survival city builder. I would say, akin to stuff we've talked to in the not recent past.
Ants?
Something like Frostpunk. No, they are beavers.
They're beavers,
oh,
Nick.
Beavers. Okay.
So the whole concept is you are a colony of beavers. You start out with nothing, and you slowly start building up a city. Where Frostpunk, the kind of gotcha is like the storm. The storm is approaching, and you have to get ready for that. It's almost the opposite. It's the drought is approaching. So as you can see, through the middle of my little town, a river is flowing. Anything that touches that river, X number of distance from it, is green. It is lush. Trees will grow. Bushes will produce berries. I have a water pump, which literally, being like a beaver civilization, it literally is a beaver just goes in that and steps on a pedal and it pumps water out of the river. We can store it in some barrels. The reason we need to do that is when the drought comes, that water dries up and everything dies. If we don't have enough food, your beavers start dying. If we don't have enough water, they get too thirsty. And so you really have to prepare for when the drought comes. It lasts a few days normally, and then the water will flow back through. So thankfully, I was able to build a dam. So I was able to dam up some water. So even when the drought does come, you'll see kind of on the top rightish of the screen. I mean, I do rotate it, but you'll see a small dam. It's not very long, but it holds enough water, and so I can still keep pumping that kind of reserve during the drought. Now, I'm assuming that later on, droughts will probably last longer. And so I'm sure my small little dammed section of water will not last that entire time, because also, every single day more beavers are being born and they grow up and whatnot. So you need more resources for them to survive.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the big kind of thing. And you can see here I'm messing with water wheels because obviously, that's one way you can produce power. But, it is very physics heavy. So the water actually does make a difference. And so at one point, my little water wheel is only producing, say, like 180 horsepower or something like that. Well, what I end up doing is I end up building some levees on the other side of it, which forces all of the water to go through that water wheel, and it triples the output of its power, because now instead of water kind of floating past it, it has to go through it. So I mean, I guess it's very physics based. Looking at some of the later on upgrades, it looks like there's some stuff that you can put at the bottom of waterfalls to produce energy and stuff like that. I've seen some footage of I think there might be floods because I've seen some stuff where when the water flows, it kind of floods your city. So you have to be careful about that. If you try to dam up stuff, well, now there's too much water and your dam's backing it up. And so you could potentially flood your city and ruin crops. So you have to be able to be prepared for that. Similar to any kind of, city building stuff, you have different resources. So, I mean, in this case, we're chopping down trees. You can use those base logs for very simple stuff, but you can build buildings to turn those logs into planks, which you need for more advanced things, and kind of
pretty advanced beavers.
Goes. Oh yeah, for sure.
But
yeah,
I don't think they're chopping down trees. They're probably gnawing down trees.
Correct. You're not wrong. But yeah, so they all have jobs, and right now, honestly, the beavers aren't fucking enough. I really desperately need more, because multiple times I'm just out of beaver hands to do jobs.
You can't help yourself. You're desperate for more beaver. That's what you're saying.
I get some raccoons or something, some bears.
But yeah, so I'm not super far into it. I'm maybe about 3 or 4 hours. So I mean, like I said, I just have this one small city. Mm-hmm.
What can you do to encourage beavers to reproduce?
I think it's setting them up so that they're not lacking anything. So they have to have plenty of food, they have to have plenty of water, they have to have shelter. So the first few nights, all the beavers are just sleeping outside. They're sleeping among the crops and just anywhere on the ground. And then eventually I started kind of building housing for them. And so I don't think they will reproduce unless you have housing. Yeah, exactly. And I don't even in this footage, but it's after I recorded this, I was able to build some more deluxe housing, so it's even nicer. So maybe that will encourage it more. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, I'm still pretty early. I haven't had any floods or anything. I've only had 2 droughts, and they've both been fairly brief. And so you can see, if you're watching the footage, you can see I have a small dam. That dam has been enough to hold the water. But I have seen other footage where the droughts do seem to last longer. And you might have to, like I said, I only have a couple of little water reserves. So I'm pretty sure later on it's not going to be, but you can see here in the footage, the actual drought has just started.
Oh.
And so you can watch me kind of following the water drying up, and you'll see that all the green grass that's around it starts to go brown. But because I have my dam there, the area right around where my beavers live, it stays green. Trees keep growing. Berries keep getting produced on bushes, and this area just kind of downstream of me seems like a very big reserve. So my probable plans will be to venture out towards the other end of that and try to dam it up on the other side, so that when the bigger drought comes, I'll have more water. The problem is it's all kind of based on you have a city center, and you can only build so far out from that. But I think the concept is you can have other colonies. other districts is what they're referred to
Right.
as. So I think I'll have to kind of leapfrog some districts towards the other side of that big reservoir so that that district can, dam it up, and then everyone can, make use of the extra water. But you'll see that,
Beaver districts.
Exactly. But now that the water's not flowing, my water wheel is not turning. So it's a trickle of a turn. So when it was producing like 180 horsepower, now it's producing like 10.
So I have electricity. Is that what?
Yeah, well, there's like barely any power, but so there is. You can see it's almost like a hamster wheel where I can just tell a beaver, "Hey, just go and walk," and the beaver has to walk to turn it and to produce power. But yeah, so during the drought, like not a whole lot of stuff is being produced. The only thing we can really get if I have water is like the food. It's hard for me to produce like gears or planks, so I can establish my city even more. But yeah, so far it's pretty good. It has really good music.
You said you got the itch to play this. How is this a game you've had for a while, or
no? I haven't had it. It is technically early access as well, I believe. Okay. I just this style of game, I kind of had the itch to play. It's very similar to Frostpunk or what was that space game I was playing not that long ago? Hold on, I can look at my library real quick.
Somebody in chat, Banished. I think Banished.
Industries of Titan.
Industries of Titan. There we go.
Yeah, so kind of similar to that. And yeah, headshot to the dick in chat. Early access, everything is. It's one of those things where I get it. I think they want to make the game better, but obviously they need some money, so they're releasing it to people to get feedback to make it even better. So far, I've been enjoying it. I haven't had any major issues. For being an early access game, I've been really enjoying what I've played. So
sweet. I'm shocked at the. I'm very disappointed at the lack of beaver puns. There's got to be some beaver puns here, right?
I'm sure there's plenty.
Well, if you think of anything,
you think if they had a beaver brothel to promote, I guess, reproduction, it would be called Beavers?
I mean, wouldn't those just be like brood wives? I don't think that's a very good thing to promote, Brad.
Well, they're animals.
I mean, I guess, but they also are animals that are farming and industry and.
Whoa!
Clearly, you're sentient.
Is this a professional?
I know, and they need some recreation.
Is this a professional joke room? Like, wow.
Right. But so actually, you say that, but actually, kind of being serious and not jokey. The game does have, and Nick, you were asking about how you get them happy or whatever. I was able to build like a rooftop lounge area on top of some of their houses. You can kind of see it in the footage where literally after work, because you set their number of hours similar to Frostpunk. Right now they're working 16 hours a day, which sucks. But up to when the drought was coming up, I had them working like 20 hours a day because I'm like, fuck, we got to get ready. But when they're only working X number of hours in their off time, they'll go hang out at that little lounge and like hang out with each other and stuff like that. It's kind of cute.
And
obviously
would
it makes
they?
them happier.
Would they? Nolan?
All right.
Nice.
Brad, I think that one earned you the right to go next.
All right. Y'all ready for this? I made sure to, at the very start of this footage, to really capture what everybody will... The thing that'll keep everybody from playing this game. Actually, the truth is, I didn't actually get some of the most repulsive art because this is like an RPG Maker game, and a lot of the story stuff is kind of little sprites, but little RPG Maker sprites. But the conversations and what is this game called? Symphony of War, the Nephilim Saga. I'm doing a support conversation all off Fire Emblem here. This is a game that I think at a first glance, a lot of people think it's like a Fire Emblem type game, and it is in some ways. And I think that's why people tend to like see games that look like Fire Emblem or have squares or whatever and go, hey, Brad likes those. Brad, you're probably interested in this game. Try it out or whatever. And at a glance, it does kind of look like Fire Emblem. I do like Fire Emblem. I don't like love Fire Emblem, but I like Fire Emblem.
You don't love Fire Emblem?
I'm gonna say, I'm pretty sure you play quite a bit of Fire Emblem.
I used to love it more than I do now, but Three Houses was really good. So what are you gonna do? But the thing is, this isn't just Fire Emblem. And when I found out that it wasn't just Fire Emblem, and the other thing that it's sort of married with, when I found out what that was, I got really, really excited, and I bought the game and I've been playing it. And that's that it's Fire Emblem meets Ogre Battle. And when I say Ogre Battle, I don't mean like Tactics Ogre, which was the spiritual predecessor to Final Fantasy Tactics, a traditional turn-based strategy RPG where you're moving single units around a grid and you customize them. It's not like Final Fantasy Tactics. Ogre Battle is very different. Ogre Battle is actually like an RTS style, like army movement game where you're like creating little squads of dudes and you can customize those, like, oh, let's put like a couple of wizards with a couple of, cavalry, and yeah, it probably needs a healer, and you're creating like a little army, and you move those little armies or little teams around a map, and you're capturing castles, and you're liberating towns or whatever, and then you're finally moving in on the final boss or whatever and capturing that castle. And Ogre Battle was kind of like a real-time game, where you're moving those units, and when they get into battles, it's like an auto battle. And when you see those battles, it kind of looks like Advance Wars, but you actually customly create those teams, and that's like a big part of Ogre Battle, is like the fine detail of customization of like these individual groups that you're going to be moving around the map. Now, in this game, because it is also Fire Emblem inspired, that part is actually turn-based, and that's where it kind of looks like, at a glance, more like a Fire Emblem game, where you're moving your little guys into battles, and when they get into battles, instead of just a one-on-one fight, you see like a group of dudes, almost like Advance Wars, right? Except you custom made all of those little groups, and that's sort of like, for me, like the real fun of a game like Ogre Battle, is that sort of like ridiculous customization, and finding like really good team compositions that feel really powerful, because when you get into a fight, you don't actually have it's all there's 2 rounds of like auto battle, and then a winner is determined, right? And when Ogre Battle is the thing I love, but it's not a thing that a lot of people are too familiar with. So I think when they saw this, they didn't notice the parts that were actually very, very Ogre Battle. And I'm telling you, it's like a pretty good blend of combination of Fire Emblem and Ogre Battle works perfectly, because I'd say the thing about Ogre Battle was that was the most awkward, was sort of that real-time element of like moving these teams around a map. The turn-based thing works brilliantly, and I don't know, it's not much to look at, especially like the story stuff in between battles, which uses a completely different art style. And I'm not just talking about like the conversation that you saw earlier. Like it looks like an RPG Maker game outside of battle.
This kind of reminds me of, is this going to be the game? Is this going to be the 2022 equivalent of, what was the game that you from like 2 years ago, that was like you're on?
Well, no. This is, every year I feel like I have a game that I really enjoy, but is too ugly for anybody else to try.
I mean, when you're in battle,
it doesn't matter. Well, like a story sequence, again, you're not going to see here, unfortunately, because that's. I mean, look up some screenshots, Nick.
Is it pretty ugly when you go into the story?
Well, it's like a completely different art style. It's like an RPG Maker thing, and it's bizarre. It's bizarre. It's definitely like one of those, right? Like a Horizon's Gate, like a fail seal, right? Like, no matter what Brad says about this, I can't play a game that looks like this. And this is destined to be that, like, for sure. And it's not like I can say, well, if you like Ogre Battle, you should try this, because no one's played Ogre Battle. So I can't like recommend it based on that. But if you like the idea of playing like a Fire Emblem game, but instead of like single units getting into fights, you have groups of people getting into fights, and you can like really customize that. You pick the leader, and I mean, there's a lot of like customization you can do. It's like really good, really cool, like based on their leadership capacity or their leadership stat, you have a certain capacity of units, and like, oh, I want to put 2 dragons here, but the person I designated as the leader of this group's leadership stat isn't high enough, so I can't actually, I can maybe squeeze 2 dragons in, but now I can't fit a healer, that sort of thing, right? But if he levels up a little bit and he raises his leadership, now I can fit a healer in there, and instead of like a group that can like do a lot of damage, but then takes a lot of damage. Now they're kind of like self-sustaining and stuff. That sort of army customization I find like extremely satisfying and rewarding. And when you create a group that just kind of tears through the battlefield, it feels really kind of rewarding, as opposed to just a single Fire Emblem unit that's going to get more and more powerful every time they level up, right? It's kind of Fire Emblem with that RPG customization that I really like, but it's just kind of a different approach. The hard thing about Ogre Battle is there's not much like it, and you can't really tell people to go back to play it because it's like so old. The first Ogre Battle came out on Super Famicom, and
Jesus.
although Pokop just recently, Pokop is doing like sort of he plays a lot of old games, and he's doing like sort of his Matsuno run, and he actually played through Ogre Battle, and he's almost done with Tactics Ogre, and then he's going to go on to Final Fantasy Tactics. But
we also have a new Ogre Battle game coming in November, so
no, we don't.
Wait, what? That's Tactics Ogre.
Yeah, Tactics Ogre, which is the one that's like Final Fantasy Tactics, and
it's
that's
got
a
Ogre
remaster.
in the name.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that a lot of people like realize. Oh, it's one of those Ogre games. I know, I'm familiar with that. It's like Final Fantasy Tactics, but no, Ogre Battle is nothing like Final Fantasy Tactics. It's really not. If you should look up a trailer or something. So hey, it's Ogre Battle. It's Fire Emblem. I think if you just like a good strategy RPG, I think you can really vibe with this. Even if Fire Emblem is your thing and you have no experience with Ogre Battle, I think that you could appreciate it on the levels of like, oh, this is like Fire Emblem, but I have a lot more control over these and customization over this. This is like really kind of satisfying or rewarding. And if you can get over the art style, which again, this stuff in battle doesn't really look that bad, but like the story stuff outside of battle, oh my God, it's pretty bad looking, especially like the portrait art's really bad. You saw some of that earlier. Like, here's a new character, and I can't get over how stupid he looks.
Bad. Oh, come on.
It's bad, dude. It's
fine. I've seen much worse. Come on.
It's rough. But yeah, and it's got a bad name too, right? It doesn't look great. It's got a bad name.
Considering it's the fact destined. That you had to ask us what it was called.
Symphony of War is the part I remember. The Nephilim Saga doesn't help, but Symphony of War is like a really generic title. Jesus.
I think the character art's one of the better looking parts in this game.
Okay, go back to the very start of the footage. There was 2 characters having a conversation. Nothing about that looked good.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, Brad. You and I, more often than not, completely disagree on what looks stupid and what doesn't. So I'm just going to go ahead and factor that in right there. We're like polar opposite ends of the stupid spectrum. Just in terms.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense, right?
From the guy who recommended Fell Seal and the guy who recommended Horizon's Gate. If you liked either one of those,
no, it's not like either of those games. Shut the fuck up.
No. I'm saying
if you like Fire Emblem,
you recommended those games. If people played those games that you recommended, this seems like another one of those kind of Brad recommendations.
Yes, it's an ugly game, but it's one where, again, I've only played like probably 5-6 hours. I don't know if could run into like fucking balance issues. Yeah, good Steam Deck game. Could run into balance issues. Maybe the story could get really stupid. I don't know. It's kind of got one of those stories, but it's fine so far. I don't know. Look. Don't play it because you like Fell Seal or Horizon's Gate. Play it because
I wasn't trying to say that. I was saying if you trust Brad. If you trust Brad's recommendation,
play it if you trust me on this sort of game, and you're one of the few that were brave enough to try something like a Fell Seal because you're not a graphics whore. Then I recommend Symphony of War, Chex Notes, The Nephilim Saga. I don't know if it's on anything but Steam, but
this would be good on Switch.
I don't know if it's on Switch.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly the best name, Nick, so I don't blame you.
No, it's a terrible name.
I had to check the spelling twice when I was making the overlays for this.
I think
Brad
Ed's
and
playing.
Nolan,
I saw Ed put like 4 hours into this, so he's
Yeah,
usually
that doesn't
good people when
surprise
it
me.
comes to. He seems like good people usually when it comes to this sort of thing. So I'll talk to him about that.
I mean, I think it's
Cool.
impressive that this is a RPG Maker game, and it's evidently getting decent reviews.
Ed is going to be on the podcast and next week or the week after, one of those weeks.
Damn!
So you
I
should have
talked about it then.
You should have an opportunity to compare notes on Symphony of War, the Nephilim Saga.
That's it for this game, but I will say it felt really like tough to like boot up my Steam Deck and not launch Monster Hunter. Like it felt active. I played it basically every day
Physically
since it came
painful.
out, and it felt kind of bad not booting that game up. Knowing that I'm still not MR 100 and. It's like, it sucks. But luckily I got into this enough that I was like, this is not so bad to play other things.
Did we ever
Chasing
dig
that
down
money.
to the bedrock of why Chris Davis hates that Brad likes Monster Hunter?
I think
That's a strange thing. It's a very, very popular series.
podcast. We could have a whole podcast about that. I feel like just
I feel like there's some very complex.
I think he's trying to make it
psychological
like My
mechanisms
Division or
going
something.
on.
I mean,
I
it is your
we joked
division.
enough about the Division, so he wants
it
to
is
make it like
also-
My
To
Division.
be fair, we hammered him pretty hard on that.
Yeah,
I do think it is a little strange because it does strike me as like I feel like if Chris Davis actually were to pick up a controller and play Monster Hunter, he'd probably really enjoy it.
I'm sure I would. I would.
But
I
it's
mean,
like
it's
talk
it's
about
like
this a lot.
that band you don't listen to because that kid in high school who was really into them was a dick to you. So you're like,
Or-
man, like losers listen to that band. That is like
or
Chris
that-
Davis with Monster Hunter.
Or
It
that
doesn't matter
amazing
what
movie-
Monster Hunter is.
Here's
that
the thing.
amazing movie
It's
that
like
came out this
you
summer
like-
that you won't see because of your high school pal who was
Yeah. It's a prison Chris Davis. Let go.
I gotta say Chris Davis. The thing is, like you get an even like whiff of a dinosaur or like a kaiju in a game. It could be the dumbest fucking looking game, but it has a dinosaur on it. You're like spamming links in Discord and stuff, and that's fine. You like your thing, but
usually.
like dinosaurs and like kaijus. I mean, you can get like that sort of like good dinosaur-y vibes from playing Monster Hunter. So I don't understand why it's not something that you would be more curious about.
We should have just lied to him and told him it's called Kaiju Hunter.
I mean, an Anjanath is just a T-Rex that breathes fire.
It breathes fire.
Look,
And
okay,
that's fucking
for
sick.
the record, I have no problem with Monster, and I'm sure I will play one day.
We've just
My
killed it for
only
him.
issue is that we do talk about it a lot on this podcast. And as I've mentioned
sorta.
multiple times before, I don't like to play games behind the curve. So I wait
that's a prison
years
of your own
sometimes to actually
making.
play something.
That's
don't
a
like
prison
to
of
play
your
in-
own
But,
making.
like you actively deride Brad for playing.
Dude, I will sometimes buy games while someone on this podcast is talking about it because they're talking about it because I now want to play it.
Sure.
You don't play games behind the curve, yet you're about to talk about a game that's years old. I don't understand.
Well, it's not years old. It came out the end of last year.
Tell us about
What?
Hold on. Checks notes.
No, it did
I'll
not.
let you-
No,
I'll let
it
you
did
get the
not.
name.
Tell us about Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, Chris Davis.
Sakuna. All right.
Sakuna. Sorry, I
Sakuna. Nick over here with his fucking Western ass pronunciations.
I goofed that. I'm sorry.
So Sakuna is a very, very, very long in development game. Single player game from I believe it's Xseed. Idlewise is
looks
developer,
like an
Xseed's
Xseed game.
publisher. Yeah.
This absolutely looks like a game you would see at the Xseed booth at
Yeah.
E3. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw
It
it
was
at the
shown
Xseed
multiple
booth at E3.
times at the Xseed booth, and I think it was
Yeah.
the same demo
You
for
know what else
several
they gave me?
years.
You know what else they gave me at the Xseed booth at E3? They gave me there was that one year, I forgot what game they were demoing. It was like one of those like weird like not dating sim games, but were like, all the they gave us like a pack of tissues branded with the game's like logo on
yes.
it.
Yeah, that was for Senran Kagura.
Yeah.
Yes, that was for
Yeah.
Senran. Thank you.
That's smart
I'm just
marketing
saying,
for what it is.
Never forget.
Yeah.
Never forget.
This is
Anyways,
This is a much more family-friendly video game than Senran Kagura.
Thank goodness.
It's
That's
interesting.
plenty family friendly.
Well, yes,
Keep
but
moving. Just
We're
keep
having
going.
fun.
keep going. So this
This game did not come out last year, by the way, Chris Davis.
Okay, well, it came out. Well, I think
It's
it
fine.
entered early
It's-
access 2 years ago, and it came out officially last year. I don't remember. Either way, it came out. It came out, and I wanted to play it. I never got around to it. There were so many other things to touch on, so I did that.
Okay.
Sakuna is actually a surprisingly fun half platformer, half farming game. It's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. So half of the game is all about growing rice. The story goes you are a goddess who was on the lofty plane. Somehow some humans crossed into the realm. You got caught into some hijinks, and you were banished to this island overrun with demons. And so you are forced by the lead god to go clear out the demons and discover the mystery of the island.
Okay. And plant rice or...
Well, so your main character is the daughter of a war god and a harvest goddess. And that's where it splits up the gameplay. The platforming and combat in the game, as you're seeing here, is the kind of war god aspect where you're going through maps, you're clearing out enemies, you're exploring them, finding treasures, and basically progressing through the island to see what's there.
It's a 2D action game, like in this part of it. Yeah, so
it's very much a 2D action game
2D,
with fun combat, but I'll get to combat in a second. What I want to talk about first is the harvest rice aspect. So this is an RPG in a way. Your character derives her powers and character growth through growing rice for the harvest. And when I say growing, I mean you are doing everything you could possibly imagine that has to do with actual production of rice.
As someone who knows almost nothing about how rice is actually produced.
You're tilling the fields, you are planting seedlings, you are managing the water levels in the field, you are weeding it out, getting rid of pests, you're managing the offshoots, the stalks of rice, you are culling, you're harvesting it, you're drying it, you're hulling the rice, you're cleaning it, you're filtering out the lower, weaker quality rice, and then you finally have a bountiful quantity for the year. And every single time you harvest a successful amount of rice, that's when your character levels up. So what you do is you manage your field and you fertilize it with ingredients you find out when you're platforming, and you actually make fucking fertilizer out of, from an outhouse, and you plant it in your field.
From poop?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a whole character story about that too.
This isn't. You're not
It's
using
like Dragon
night
Quest
soil,
Builders.
It's something.
Yeah, you're using night soil.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
Gross.
you're doing that.
Pretty
and
sure
you're
there's lots of issues.
anyway.
Doesn't go well with humans.
What is night soil?
The
Oh,
soil
boy.
you make in the night.
Oh,
Fertilizer made from human poop.
Yes.
Gotcha.
It's not like fertilizer made from poop. It's just poop.
Oh yes, it is poop, but it's human poop, which you're not really supposed to do.
So
But
based on how you make your fertilizer and insert ingredients that you collect in the field, like rotten food or special powders that will increase the quality of the fertilizer, it will thus increase the quality of the eventual crop. And that's how, and that combined with managing your field and how well you manage it, raises your character level by certain percentage points. And then there's the other half of the scenario, which is the combat. You're going out on maps, you're exploring them, you're completing exploration objectives, and you're collecting resources to bring back and put effort into your field.
Everything kind of feeds back into the rice aspect. The rice seems
absolutely.
like the major. I mean, it seems like kind of the major focus of this game, right?
It absolutely is the major focus of this game. And it somehow feels more tedious as the game goes on, as well as gets easier for you to do. Because as you do these activities, your character levels up her skills. And so she can maybe harvest rice faster, or she can sift them, or things like that, in which the very slow, monotonous mini games early on in the game feels so much faster and so much better later on. It's fun. The combat itself, I really like the flow of it. There is a heavy emphasis on juggling enemies and throwing them into one another. Your character has both magic strike abilities as well as a raiment, basically a magical scarf that she can use.
Oh, is that what she's using as like a thing to like pull herself into enemies? Or
yeah, you can pull yourself into enemies as well as most walls and ceilings in the field. So that's where a lot of the platforming kind of is built in, where there'll be segments and walls where you can't jump up it, but if you time your jumps and wall jumps right with the raiment, you can climb over and explore more. That's where it hides a lot of like the hidden content, like masks and things like that.
This world map makes this game look pretty damn big.
I mean, the levels themselves are fairly small. You could probably get through each one in about 5 to 10 minutes. And some of them actually have exploration objectives where you get through them in less than 2 minutes. So you're skipping a lot of combat.
But there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. And they do scale the enemies based on where you are in the story. And also, there is a time of day system in this game. During the day, the enemies are much easier, but once night strikes, they just flip a switch and become much, much harder. And in fact, my footage that I was playing just a minute ago, night came while I was exploring a map, and the enemies they gained like 20 levels of experience in just in the span of a minute. So I had to leave the map because they would have kicked my ass otherwise. The cool thing is that as part of the cycle, you have to feed the humans and yourself to maintain your abilities in the game. So you will...
Is there food? Is there cooking food?
Oh, there's a lot of cooking food. So, well, you're not cooking food. A character in your party is cooking food.
I don't care about that. Do you get to see the delicious looking food?
I mean, it's small and it's you see the food and you see them eating the food.
Gotcha.
They're commenting on the quality of the food as they're eating it. The thing about making your menus and managing your resources that you cook for your group is that while the rice harvest gives you permanent stat buffs and a full grade level, cooking your food gives you temporary stat buffs for the next day. So you want to plan out your menus for actually what you're going to do the following day. So if you're going to go exploring, maybe you want to buff your strength stat and your health, and maybe even add a natural recovery stat, so you're recovering health between battles. And if if you know that the next following day you're going to have to work on the harvest, maybe not use that, or plan to use resources and like pickle food and things like that, to where you have resources later on to work with. And as part of the harvest, this game has a seasonal focus. Every 3 days, it rotates into a new season. So you go through years pretty fast. And you can harvest rice within 6 to 9 days. The game does not want you to go into winter. And you don't want to do that because it will ruin your harvest. And you won't get any rice for the year. But yeah, the loop is pretty fun here.
Sweet.
I would really encourage...
One question I have, what's the ratio of like the rice stuff to the combat stuff? Is it like you spend most of your time doing like the harvesting stuff?
Well, I'm sure there's millions of rice to every combat encounter.
Well, there's I would say 40% harvest, 60% exploration and combat.
Oh, wow. So it leans the other way. Interesting.
Yeah, it kind of does. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you're most of the time you're just coming back to the field and you're checking on its status, weeding out pests and stuff, and then just going in and ending the day.
Gotcha.
But there will be times in a season to where the game wants you to focus and will tell you when the rice is ripe and what steps to take next, whether that's draining the field so the stalks don't offshoot too much, or knowing when to hull the rice and clean it and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, actually, what they built. The story, it's got a lighthearted story that might get a smile or two out of you from the writing and the dialogue. I want to say I'm
It looks
halfway
charming.
through it at this point, and I put in about 12 hours.
You're playing on Steam?
I'm playing on PS5.
Oh, cool.
I got a deal on it a few months back for like $20.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. So that's Sakuna. What is it? Sakuna
Of Rice and Ruin.
Of Rice and Ruin. I had it at the tip of my tongue. You guys and all your weird game names. Okay, we actually need to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to cover some news. We're going to answer a couple questions from our listeners, and we're going to wrap up with the 4-player minute. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We got some news this week. Some stuff is happening, and I don't know which one I want to start with. I don't really have. Okay, so first news topic that I want to talk about today, and I don't know how much we're going to have to say about this, but it seemed kind of relevant because the past week we had Comic-Con, right? About a lot of Marvel news coming out of Comic-Con, and then this is a rumor that this is a Jeff Grubb rumor, and or he is reporting that apparently there is an open world Black Panther game in development by Monolith developers, and I just wanted to get y'all's take on this, because to me, open world Wakanda sounds kind of dope.
What makes you think it'll be Wakanda?
Wait, whoa. Why would you make an open world Black Panther game and not set it in Wakanda?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how open is that world?
Black Panther's not always in Wakanda.
Yeah, it seems weird that he would be like doing his thing in Wakanda, right?
I guess. I mean, we have a new movie coming out that's all about Wakanda.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Well, I mean, if you were going to explore the culture of Wakanda, like setting it in there where you can explore what the life is like at the 4 tribes. I mean, I agree
that conceptually, as like, what's the most interesting place to set it would be Wakanda, but like,
I mean, it's almost like why it.
I guess I mean, it doesn't really matter. But what is the game like? What do you think? What do you think is like the cool stuff that if it's like an open world action game in a city environment, those typically tend to have some kind of like really interesting movement mechanics and things like that. So like, what does Black Panther do? Is he just like climbing up the sides of skyscrapers and stuff? I guess.
Mean, I feel like that would be my assumption.
Or flying around it, like,
or using some kind of crazy Wakanda tech to like fly around and zip around and stuff. But like,
I mean, this is Monolith developers, the developers behind Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. So they have open world experience and melee combat experience. So they could certainly, this would be a fair fit for these particular developers.
I am quite fond of at the very least the very first Middle Earth game. Haven't tried the second one yet, but like, I like what they did with that, and Black Panther seems kind of like an inspired choice, just in terms of like superhero games, because we haven't video games in particular, as in terms of like their approach to like superheroes, it's always kind of centered around like the obvious choices, right? We have the Batman games, we have the Spider-Man games. God forbid we have a Superman game every now and then. But like, I feel like there hasn't been a ton of like kind of, I mean, obviously Marvel has kind of made Black Panther a much more mainstream, since the movie came out. The first movie came out, obviously Black Panther has kind of blown up and become a much more popular mainstream character. So it'd be cool to see them explore, especially now that we live in a day and age where like superhero games don't have to go hand in hand with like a movie. Like they can kind of exist on their own in their own ecosystem and be stand on their own. I
mean, as long as it's not developed by Crystal Dynamics or necessarily published by Square Enix, I think you got good potential there.
I see. I totally see where you're coming from.
Quite like that Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Yeah,
and then like 3 or 4 months later, they decided to just sell off Eidos Montreal. So
that's true. I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of that has to do with like Square Enix's like just business decisions are kind of poor when it comes to these kinds of things. They don't really know how to handle it. But like, obviously, Crystal Dynamics made the Avengers game, and that didn't do very well. But like, I don't know if I would ever like say I would never want Crystal Dynamics to work on that. That's basically like saying I only trust Crystal Dynamics to make Tomb Raider, and I would hate to be. I don't want them to just become the Tomb Raider studio. But that's neither here nor there. We're not talking about Crystal Dynamics. I mean, I like Monolith. I mean, this is obviously not Monolith. It's just people that worked for Monolith. But like that, you can get a kind of a good idea of maybe what to expect from this kind of project. And I don't know. I think Black Panther is a very inspired choice. Now that you've introduced the idea that maybe it doesn't take place in Wakanda, though, now I'm a little nervous. Not because it's necessarily going to be bad, but it would suck to them to take like a character like Black Panther and be like, oh, here's another new open world New York City game.
Oh, I mean,
not that can't be good, but like it seems like wasted potential. Wakanda has to play into it.
You could have Wakanda, right? Like, yeah.
It would probably be, I don't think they would make a Black Panther game specifically and not have it be in Wakanda. But I mean, it's
or at least have most Wakanda.
Most superhero games are in like cities and stuff.
You're probably right. Yeah. I mean, it probably will be in Wakanda. I mean, I don't think that's like an actual, I don't know, concern. I think it was just kind of my immediate thought of like, oh, but whatever.
It is kind of odd. I do totally get where you're coming from.
But yeah, it could be cool.
Could be cool. All right. So one thing I wanted to do, we have two other news topics here. I actually want to read just a quick synopsis here of what we're actually referencing. This is actually being reported by Bloomberg. This is a Jason Schreier article via Nebellion on Twitter. This is Rockstar related. So this is actually kind of a two-parter. Rockstar has apparently...
Not familiar with them.
You're no Rockstar. They're the studio behind a little game called Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. Bully. Oh, or Bully, yeah. Totes. Sorry, this is not you hear Rockstar, this is maybe not the news you're hoping for, but this is a two-parter. So apparently, since 2018, we've talked a lot about crunch on this podcast. Most podcasts have talked about it a lot. Rockstar has been kind of one of those big studios kind of at the forefront of that, where they've been kind of infamous for having really horrible working conditions. But apparently, part one of this article is there's been some changes at Rockstar since 2018. They've apparently overhauled their workplace culture, and this has been corroborated by several Rockstar employees. They've hired on more producers to avoid overtime. There's schedule changes, conversion of contractors to full-time employees, new mental health and leave benefits, and it says, I don't know what this means exactly, staff more flexible with their time. I don't know what that means. But all in all, it seems like a pretty positive change, so that's good, right? Which also kind of...
GTA6 will come out in 2028.
Exactly, which kind of leads into like why Grand Theft Auto 6 is taking longer than maybe people expected. This apparently does have to do with these changes, but again, I think it's a positive change, so it's probably something we should all just learn to live with. Especially when it comes to GTA 6, because it's going to make an ungodly amount of money. It doesn't really matter how long they take to develop it.
Yeah.
But apparently there's first details about GTA 6 starting to kind of leak out. And we don't know if these are accurate or not. These are rumors at this point, but these all seem to be pretty heavily hinted at or rumored.
Not directly confirmed, but expected.
Correct. And I think I want to say these are actually being reported by Bloomberg too. So,
yeah.
Working title, Project Americas. Main location is a fictional version of Miami and the surrounding areas. Game will evolve over time, adding new cities. So it sounds like they're going to turn this into kind of like, after they launch the game, it's going to kind of become a platform that grows over time, which...
A live service game?
Perhaps.
Yes. I didn't want to say the word, Chris.
Yeah, that's the future, baby. That's just the world we live in now.
I mean, it sounds to me somewhere between a games as a service and DLC.
Let's be real here. Grand Theft Auto Online for GTA 5 is like far and away the most successful thing
For
that
sure.
Rockstar has ever
That's
made.
why they keep
and
putting it on
they're
every
building
fucking.
this game with that in mind, first and foremost.
And hey, you know what? That being said, as someone who's played a shit ton of GTA Online, it's fantastic. And it's been kept up with, and they keep doing new events and releasing new like heists and like having new areas, and like the community support is huge. So it's like one of those things where even though this game came out in 2013, it's almost going on 10 years. I could boot it up today and have a fantastic time.
Sure.
Like just doing shit that I have never encountered before.
On the flip side of that, it's shocking how much they have not supported Red Dead Redemption 2 online.
Right?
Like,
right? That's what I was
what?
going to say. At the detriment of RDO? Like, come on.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I agree with you there.
Has
I agree
not
with
made
you
But to
there.
be
the same kind of
honest,
money.
let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that like they're doing this, they're turning GTA into kind of a live service game in some ways. But that doesn't necessarily mean all of their games are going to be like that. I would much rather it be GTA than have them do something like this with the next Red Dead. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But like the last part of this is that GTA 6 will feature two playable protagonists, one of which is a female protagonist for the first time in the series, a Latina that is a pair of leading characters influenced by Bonnie and Clyde. So that's cool, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I hope they add whatever the Grand Theft Auto equivalent of Fort Lauderdale is. That would be great.
So I saw you say that on in Discord earlier. What?
Fort Lauderdale is just north of Miami. It's just the next city, and it's just like, I don't know. It's just a weird place.
Yeah.
It's just a weird place.
It's just a weird. It's got all the weirdness of Miami without like any of the glamour. Like
Wonderful. That sounds perfect for GTA. What were you gonna say, Chris Davis?
I would say evidently the scope, the original scope of this game was dramatically bigger. One of the pitches was that this game would cover North and South America.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. They scale that back.
No, you know what that means. You know what that means is that the campaign has a Guarma style mission where you like go to like Cuba or something for an hour and then come back. That's what that means.
And then everybody will hate that mission. Apparently.
And then everyone will be like, "Oh, I love this game, but the Cuba mission was a little weird." Like,
but I
yeah, I think all that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean they have experience building gigantic maps. I mean GTA 5 technically has 2 maps in it.
The only kind of lingering question I have is, and this admittedly, Krispy, probably stems from just kind of a general nervousness about games becoming live service games. Is like, when this comes out, is this a game that I'll be able to kind of play without feeling like I'm buying into a live service game? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, will I be able to play this and have it feel like I'm playing GTA, like I did when I played GTA 5?
I think that similar to GTA Online, there is going to be a beginning of this game, a start screen, some missions, and then an ending title credits. I think you can completely play this game without doing any kind of online service shit.
Yeah.
And then like when they did Red Dead, they separated them even further. Now you can download them as separate apps. Like
yeah. I mean, I think I hope that's the direction they're moving. But either way, I think Rockstar is a studio overall, I think, that I trust, and just in terms of like creative decisions. So I don't know.
Like,
I'm definitely interested. It's weird thinking about GTA after so long, because for me, like, I haven't really thought about a GTA game since, like Nolan said, what was it, 2013? So like, wow.
Like I think
what does a GTA game look like these days?
I think the expectation ought to be that GTA 6 or whatever it subtitles itself to be, will launch as a full single player experience with a start, middle, and end with roll credits, and then any additional content they develop past that will be sort of expansion packs that are post game content.
Well, that sounds like just a regular GTA game. Like, yeah, like that sounds like the GTA 3 had, or not GTA 3, GTA 4.
GTA 4, yeah, but GTA 4 was the last one to actually kind of do that for single player narrative. Like, they tried to do it GTA 5 and they canceled those projects and just rolled them into the multiplayer instead.
Yeah. Well, they're going into GTA 6 now with almost 10 years of learning from GTA 5 online and how that experience worked. So I don't know. It's all this sounds positive to me. I'm looking forward to hearing more because it's one of those. I feel like it's been enough time now that I'm just kind of like, okay, I can get excited about GTA again. It's been a long ass time. Um, all right, and the last bit of news I wanted to talk about tonight. Again, this is from a Bloomberg article, so another Jason Schreier thing. This is some bad news. This came out yesterday, and they wrote Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, the remake, a remake of the 2003 role-playing game, is delayed indefinitely at developers. As developers at Austin, Texas-based Aspire Media try to figure out what comes next. Apparently, they fired two lead developers or the game's art director and design director.
Yeah.
Last month, with no real reference to why.
Well,
so we don't know if this is like a situation where they weren't happy with the way the project was coming together, or if they were like scummy.
well,
You know what I mean?
so what supposedly happened was that Aspire created a vertical slice several months back. I think at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And Aspire had been told that the game would release by the end of 2022. And whatever the quality of the vertical slice was, it was not up to
standard.
snuff.
Right.
And based on the production cycle and the way the development was actually going, there was no way it could make a 2022 target.
Right.
So they're reassessing, and I believe the quote was that based on the pace of development, the earliest the game could be out is in 2025.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely is not good.
I got to be honest with you guys. I never had much hopes for this, given Aspire's track record.
So I do want to take this opportunity to read a comment. This is left in the community thread this week by Scud, and is related to this topic. He said, "I really never had any hopes for the Aspire KOTOR remake, and I've been baffled since its announcement that such a project would be handed off to a non-AA or AAA developer."
Brad, when did you change your username to Scud?
Hold on.
Well, they're a port house, and those ports were bad.
He says, whose primary experience has been mediocre or bad ports of original material. Any good ports that they've done were simply because the source was good. They don't remake games, so I was so blown away by their name being attached. He's not wrong. I mean, he's definitely onto something here, and it's been kind of perplexing since this announcement. I think a lot of people were shocked to see their name on screen when that thing was announced. The question is, I guess the first thing I was a little surprised by was like, I don't feel like you normally see this kind of thing immediately blow back onto like two very specific people. You know what I mean? Like vertical slice, not up to par, fire two people. But if what Chris Davis said was accurate about like the timetable being mishandled to the point where it's like earliest is like 2025, which is obviously not what they're going for, I could see how some dramatic choices would need to be made. So here's the question I have for y'all. Do y'all think this game is ever coming out, or is this going to just quietly kind of fade away?
I think we will get a KOTOR remake at some point, whether it's this project, whether it's made by Aspire, whether it bears any resemblance to what they're trying to make right now whatsoever. Who knows? But we will get something.
I'll say this. It's not too soon for a KOTOR remake.
It's not too soon, but also, it's like, okay.
KOTOR is one of those games too that has such a passionate following that like if you come out and announce a remake of that game, it's not something I don't think you can just kind of like hope that people notice goes away. You know what I mean? Like people will be asking, like, you promised us a KOTOR remake, where the fuck is it? For years. if you like, this is not the kind of thing I think they can just easily cancel, and if they do, they're gonna have to deal with a deluge of negative
when you're
sure they can.
When you're
Rockstar canceled their remasters of Red Dead and
but those weren't even officially announced. Those were like
yeah,
those were.
what does an announcement mean much these days? I mean, it doesn't mean
Yeah,
much
yeah.
these days.
I mean,
The
it means
reason
something
why the
it's
reason
hard to
why I
get,
think
it's
this
hard to
is
get
more
mad at something that doesn't
inevitable.
exist yet.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, they said they existed and that they canceled them, and
but I think what makes this a
People
little
make it
different
better.
is that Rockstar. I mean, I guess Take Two is the ultimate arbiter on GTA and like Red Dead content because they own Rockstar or whatever. But you're talking about the most popular, one of the most popular games in Star Wars, like, which is huge multi-billion-dollar franchise owned by Disney. Like, it, I don't know, it's apples and oranges. I feel like it's not just like a remake of a beloved video.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't gonna go away. I don't, some people might get fired over it, but somebody somewhere is eventually gonna make something that we will all call the KOTOR remake. Like,
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate because, man, Star Wars just does not have, like, you'd think Star Wars seems like such a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like video games, like it feels like it shouldn't be this hard to get Star Wars right in the world of video games, or to like produce projects that go smoothly, or you know what I mean? But like
I think
there have
it's
been
a
so
scenario.
many canceled
There
Star
are
Wars
good-
projects.
Yeah, but
There's
there's so many Star Wars projects. Like,
Yeah.
there
True.
are, and I would say that I think where they suffer is, probably getting bogged down into how do we make a Star Wars game and loop in the Skywalkers and Darth Vader and all this shit, versus they need to do something more akin to, hey, it happens in the Star Wars universe, like Fallen Order, stuff like that, where it's like, hey, we don't have to have 10,000 Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6 things in this to make it a
Yeah.
good Star Wars game. But I honestly, that's probably where they get bogged down when they're trying to pitch this shit and sell it and like whatever. That's
I mean,
my
I think in
assumption.
Let's not
I think
forget,
EA is
the-
kind of the one who's fucking this into the ground for
Yeah, for sure.
well over a decade. You know what I mean?
right. They like, their leadership inherited a contract with Disney to make Star Wars games that they didn't want. So I mean,
Right.
when we're talking about Star Wars game production, we're really talking about EA game production, which
Mhm.
yeah, no shit, they suck. Like,
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It sucks because like Fallen Order was fun, is good, but it still didn't. I don't think it reignited my passion for Star Wars the way I kind of hoped. I was kind of honestly, I was like a KOTOR remake for me personally has way more potential to do that kind of thing. But again, like seeing Aspire attached to it didn't exactly instill a lot of faith in me. But I don't know. We'll have to kind of wait and see what happens. But right now, it is on indefinite hold while they figure out.
What about KOTOR
what
2,
to do.
Nick? That's on Switch now. Just play KOTOR 2.
I actually what? No, I got KOTOR.
Didn't
1
we
on
do a
Switch.
revival club of that?
We did KOTOR 2.
Never happened.
Dude, I've explained this to you multiple times. I could not get it to run on my PC, therefore we moved on.
Yeah, but I'm saying
It's on Switch now. You're right.
Who cares
in fact,
about a
I had
remake? There's a whole other game that you haven't played. I mean, that's
You're right. You're fucking right. I would love to play it, and I still plan on it.
me too.
I
never
the
finished
timing
it.
was unfortunate because at the time all I had was access to the Steam version, and that
It-
sucked.
Let's do it next
it
month.
has a Force boogeyman and everything.
A Force boogeyman, huh?
It's not wrong.
Okay. That's it for news. And we don't have a ton of questions tonight, but we'll take them here. Okay. So again, guys, if you would like to write in, ask us a question for the show, you can do so a number of ways. You can go to discord.gg/4player. I'm gonna get in the habit of posting our what's on the docket going forward. I think what we're gonna be talking about that night, news and impressions wise. So if y'all want to chime in on anything that if you want to submit your opinions or ask us a question about anything specific we're already planning on talking about, you can get those in. But if you go to discord.gg/4player, I set up a thread called Submit a Question, or a channel called Submit a Question, and I put a thread on there each week for each episode. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on YouTube comments, so if anything good comes across there, I'll bring it up. And the comments on the post on 4playernetwork.com for the episode. I'll kind of check all three places. So again, if you would like to, however you want to get your thoughts to us, get them in, and we'll read them. So this week, Mr. Green Toast starts us off with something that we didn't really ever have a chance to talk about much on the show, at least yet anyways. But he says, recently, Skull and Bones was finally shown off, and sadly had removed so many features from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, such as on-foot combat and exploration, that it made me wonder. And his question is, often spiritual successors take inspiration from and innovate upon its predecessor. Oh wait, hold on. I misread this. Which spiritual successor games do you think either fail or didn't innovate enough to warrant it being considered a spiritual successor? Sorry, just took me a minute to get there.
Oh, wait.
Wait, what? The Last of Us?
I'm kidding. A spiritual successor that didn't warrant the
It's hard,
Like Nier?
the label? Huh?
Like
What?
Nier being
What would Nier be a spiritual successor to? I mean, this is harder to kind of pinpoint because it's easy. Like usually, if you're talking about like remakes or reboots or something, that's easy because it's an actual remake of something that we're talking about. But spiritual successors are harder to pin down. Skull and Bones being a spiritual successor of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, like those two things aren't necessarily as easy. Those two dots aren't necessarily as easy to connect. Like I don't have like an encyclopedia in my head of spiritual successors. Somebody in chat should start throwing out the games they consider to be spiritual successors.
Like, would you say
I know
like
what that is,
Shadows
but
of the
what's the
Colossus and Eco?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, right?
kind of. It's weird.
Would you
those
say
are
like,
made by the same team?
well, that's the thing. Would you say Bloodstained and Castlevania?
Yes. Bloodstained and Castlevania, Drunken Merchant in chat says Mighty Number 9 and Mega Man. Like those are good examples.
Yeah.
Of spiritual successors.
I know what it is, but what's
Bayonetta.
the question asking again?
Crap. Which spiritual successors do you think either fail or didn't innovate enough to warrant actually being considered a spiritual successor? Or let's just call it didn't innovate enough to be considered a successful spiritual
Mighty
successor.
Number 9. I would also say
Well,
another, in my opinion, failure, and I know not everyone agrees with me on this. Ukulele. If we're going to call that a spiritual
Yeah.
success,
Okay.
That's a
Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie.
A lot of people felt that way for sure.
I, as being someone who loved Banjo-Kazooie, who loved Banjo-Tooie, who loved Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, I hated ukulele. Like, it did not do it for me. I did not like the transformations. I did not like the world design. It just was not my cup of tea, and I felt like they really dropped the ball on trying
bounced
to
off
make...
of that too, yeah.
I bounced off super hard. Like, I wanted to love the game. But that one was a tough one for me.
For me, I would point towards Back for Blood, the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. It's it really tries to emulate it, but it just doesn't have that character, and it overemphasizes certain new gameplay elements to the detriment of the overall experience.
You know what? I'll take that a step further and say that, like, I think it actually is a pretty faithful spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, and it just made me realize I don't like Left 4 Dead that much.
Yeah, I almost feel like Left 4 Dead was kind of a product of its time, and I think
it's like go back to it now. It's just like, oh, okay.
Like I just don't think it works
you shoot the zombies. Okay.
Well, it's for me. I loved Left 4 Dead. I probably put 800 hours into it. I think playing the versus multiplayer. The versus multiplayer was what Left 4 Dead was for me, and Back 4 Blood doesn't really have that.
I guess.
That still shocks me considering I didn't even know that mode existed until this year.
That is true. A lot of people were really into the competitive multiplayer.
So I was actually going to say,
Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry, I was actually going to say the Evil Within being a spiritual successor to Resident Evil is a good example, but not a good example of one that I think did it poorly, because I think Evil Within is.
I think the question was either one. So yeah, I think Evil Within is a good example of something that did succeed.
Lots have done it well, and I don't think you necessarily have to innovate to make it like worthy. Like in the example of Bloodstain, I feel like that was worthy just because Castlevania had been gone for so long, right? And even though there's a lot of like indie Metroidvanias, like Bloodstained is so specifically that sort of Igavania type Castlevania game that he had been making, that it was just nice for it to be back. You know what I mean?
Right. I also Farrakhan in chat mentioned Prey as a spiritual successor to System Shock, which I thought is a fun, maybe less obvious connection there, but I think that's totally valid, calling it a spiritual successor to System Shock.
But it's also a good spiritual successor.
Prey's dope.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Prey is fantastic. I'm just saying, I was more applauding the connecting those dots, because I do think it's important to acknowledge Prey as a successor to.
Yeah, I mean, there's
System
lots
Shock.
of successful ones.
I think it's harder to find. It's a lot harder to find.
Like, I think Kickstarter is all about spiritual successors.
Here's
these days.
one. Yeah. Here's one that's very controversial.
Ooh.
Chrono Cross. As a spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger. I'm saying
it's another one of those weird games
that some people hate that.
But it's also another weird example, because it's technically, even though it is not a sequel to Chrono Trigger, it is developed by the same team, right? Like, it is the same studio that made Chrono Trigger, so they're making a spiritual successor to their own game. But that doesn't necessarily disqualify for being a spiritual successor.
Would you consider Dark Souls a spiritual successor to Demon Souls?
You know, that's it'd be yes and no.
I mean, that's really just a legal issue. Right.
Yeah.
They wanted to make the same game with a different publisher, so they had to change the name. But
that is true.
Yeah.
Well, like Demon Souls to Kingsfield. That's a spiritual successor scenario.
The fuck is that?
Sort of. I mean, what are we talking about? We've answered this question. Next question.
Yeah, that's
true.
It
is a fun question, I think. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have? Like I said, don't have a ton of. So, Tack wanted to write in about Timberborn. This is for you, Nolan. It says Timberborn is an interesting one. It seems like city builders / managers have been in kind of a renaissance these past few years with the relative success of RimWorld and City Skylines. I'm just curious as to how the genre is going to evolve in the near future. The management side of things is already present in many different genres, and player-made asset sharing is steadily becoming more popular as well. I look forward to the day where I can build my own city / colony / station from the ground up with its own identity, and then just drive down the road and visit someone else's, a la Animal Crossing, on a larger scale. Yeah.
Ooh, so that is interesting. Interacting with other people's cities, either positively or negatively, depending on the style of game. Like maybe something like Industries of Titan, you potentially might be attacking someone's city, versus something, like, or a la Animal Crossing, just visiting to say hi. Yeah. That's an interesting concept.
Would be cool. Thank you, Tack. Let's see. Dr. Michael Morbius, MD.
Oh no.
Writes
Morbin time.
I'm pretty sure that's Gamerbeck. He says, "What's the last video game to give you nightmares? If you can't think of any, then include other media. Sorry for the late question."
Nightmares.
We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier in chat about like movies or something giving you nightmares during the break.
Okay, the only thing I can think of to answer this question is I do remember, like, in high school, college, I had a nightmare. It didn't have anything to do with Halo, but the nightmare took place in, like, one of those massive, like, Forerunner type spaces.
Yeah.
And I remember that being really unnerving. But, like, that's a weird, and Halo gave me nightmares. Like, that's a weird answer to this question.
I don't feel like I get nightmares anymore, even though I've been playing so many horror games.
Let me put it this way. I don't get nightmares, but I get things that keep me up. So I'm not like awake or... What'd you say, Krispy?
Stress streams.
Kind of. So it's like I'll get like kind of there was a while, and I have vivid stuff, and I'm kind of like almost like lucid dreaming to an extent, kind of half awake, half asleep. When I was really into Monster Train, and I would be having kind of dreams / trying to fall asleep where I was almost trying to make myself go to sleep by solving a Monster Train puzzle, but
Tetris
failing at
effect.
it. Exactly, like the
Tetris
Tetris effect. Like
Yeah.
kind of stuff like that will often. So I don't really personally, like same with you, Nick, have nightmares, but it's more about sometimes I have trouble sleeping because my brain is trying to like solve a puzzle I can't solve.
Those are
And
very
that, for
common
some
for me
reason
still.
is keeping me awake.
So
I've had that with Monster Hunter lately. Just like making some sort of mixed set in my brain as I'm trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, and so I don't necessarily have nightmares about video games, and maybe it's just a sign of me being super desensitized to this kind of shit. But I do find it strange because I feel like there's games that I play a lot that should give me nightmares on some level. Like I said, I finished Madison last week, and Illumination wants me to call this out because I think it's a good point. There's a song that plays at the end of Madison that's kind of connected to a kind of like the ending finale, like set piece. And it's a song. It's kind of like a nursery rhyme that's about this child. It's a nursery rhyme that alludes to this demon that's haunting this family, called Blue Knees, and it has this like really childish, like creepy song that plays on like a gramophone. And that shit was real fucked up. It didn't give me nightmares, but I could totally see how I was worried for a second that this is gonna keep me up, because it's just this most unsettling song. And maybe I'll post a link to that. Maybe someone should post a link to that in chat, just if you're curious, because man, it was fucked up. But yeah, I feel like I should have more.
Is a spiritual successor to Yakuza.
Wait, what did you say?
Said Lost Judgment is Judgment is a
Yeah.
spiritual successor to Yakuza.
That absolutely is. Okay, guys, I think that's gonna do it for questions tonight. Again, thank you so much for writing in. Like I said, I'm gonna try and get. I'm gonna try and preface these in threads with like what we're planning on talking about. So if you want to chime in on some of the stuff that we already know we're gonna be talking about, that'd be great. I'm gonna keep an eye on YouTube comments. I'm gonna keep an eye on the comment section on the post on 4playernetwork.com. So if you listen to this episode and you want to chime in, leave us a comment. I'll include it in here in this segment next week. But now it is time to wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. So y'all know how this works. Final thoughts for the night. Brad, why don't you start us off?
My final thought for the night is, I guess, news that's probably not Nick worthy. For in our news segment. Just kidding.
Put it in the docket, bitch.
Tactics Ogre Reborn. More details about that are out there, including some screenshots. And there's good and bad. There's good and bad, and some concerning things. Obviously, it's a game I love. The screenshots definitely have like a smoothing filter over it, which is not good. I mean, that's the big bad. It's clear that they're taking the PSP like remake of Tactics Ogre, essentially the mechanics remake of Tactics Ogre, and trying to upres that, put a smoothing filter over it. But they're not just leaving it like that, which is good news. They're actually looking at some of the mechanics and tweaking some of the stuff that was like controversial in that version of the game, like how the classes level up together instead of individual units. They've changed that back to individual units, which is good. The other big thing is that they claim, and it's hard to get any sort of verification because it's not like this stuff keeps leaking out. I mean, it's obviously official. I mean, the game's been announced, but it's fully voice acted. Fully, I guess, I don't know, but they added voice acting, and this is exciting potentially because like Tactics Ogre has like a really really cool story, and but I'm worried that they might not kind of put in the effort to like make sure that voice acting is really good, because like it needs to be good. It needs to be better than what Triangle Strategy was, right? Because
Yes,
it's like
it
a
does.
much better written, and I mean, it's Triangle Strategy was kind of like trying to be like a Matsuno light game or like Game of Thrones light, but like Tactics Ogre is the real deal. That's the one where you're like, I'm gonna like just slaughter this village of innocent people because that's probably gonna help us win the war. And like you can make that decision. Like, and there needs to be not cheesy voice acting, and like I'm kind of weirdly unsure how committed they are to this project. The thing about Tactics Ogre that might be surprising to people is like that is a very, very like well respected, highly regarded like video game classic in Japan. In fact, like year after year, they always do these like polls where they poll all the people in Japan and they ask them what their favorite games of all time are, right? And like Tactics Ogre is always like really high on that list. And I looked at the most recent one that they did. And Kotaku wrote an article about it, and Tactics Ogre was number 31 on that list. And Final Fantasy Tactics not even on the list. So like they even hold it in higher esteem than like Final Fantasy Tactics. So like you can tell that that's probably why this is coming first. And in some ways they do care about it because they are making some smart changes, but then you see that filter and you're like, but that's kind of like ugly. So I'm just happy having my fingers crossed that they really give it like a really good like voice cast because man, again, that story deserves it. It would be fucking great if it really has that. But some of the things they're pitching as like new things or like upgrades are actually the upgrades they made from the PS1 or Super Famicom PS1 version to the PSP version. They're just promoting it as like new things for this version, like you can rewind and jump around and remake decisions. That was new for the PSP version. Yeah, I mean, kind of, right? But I guess a lot of people didn't play that version. So Tactics Ogre Reborn is coming out in November, and I'm excited, but nervous.
Do we know which team at Square Enix is making this?
No, I don't. I have no idea.
Okay.
They usually don't. A big third party like Japanese publishers don't really go too much into details on teams and stuff.
It's like Nintendo, so it's hard. It's like development group number something. You know what I mean?
Well, not just that. Like I'm talking about for smaller projects. Oftentimes, you just have no idea who's actually making it.
Yeah.
Like who's making that farming game that comes out in November that actually looks pretty cool. Harvestella. It actually looks pretty cool, but like, who the fuck is actually making that? I don't know. Well, I want to know if they're any good.
I mean, I'm just curious whether RPG Factory has any hand in this.
I don't think so.
Okay. First of all, how dare you? Second of all,
sorry.
Shame
on you, Chris Davis.
They make mediocre original games. They don't usually like do remasters and ports. So, but for all we know, they're making Harvestella. I don't actually know because I don't think Square Enix wants to say that name anymore because usually that name is attached to mediocre games traditionally.
They haven't had much luck with it. All right, Chris Davis, why don't you go next?
Okay. My final thought is a trilogy of hypes that I want to bring up. I'll start with the newest hype. Yesterday or today, the brand new Hitman 3 map came out.
Yeah, this was kind of quiet. Just kind of snuck up on us, huh?
It wasn't exactly snuck up, but I think there's just been so many other things to focus on that nobody's really paid attention here. But it's out now, and I am going to reinstall Hitman 3 just to play that tomorrow. Cool. The second thing, and I might get a little ire for this, so I'm going to mention it. Aliens Fireteam Elite has announced, so they just launched season 4 of their content, and it's more weapons, more character stuff. They're still going. But they have their first full paid expansion coming out at the end of next month. And it's going to have new story missions and new xenomorph variants in there. I've looked at some of the content, and you know what? Fireteam Elite, pretty all right game.
It's pretty all right. That is a very accurate statement, Chris Davis. That game is pretty all right.
And Nick, we never finished our run of the campaign.
Nope. But
you missed out on the best section of the game by not finishing it with us.
I know. I had fun playing with you and Joseph. I don't regret a second of that time spent, but my standards for an Alien game are pretty high, and I don't know. It was pretty all right. That's.
I mean, I
We'll just leave it
understand
at
that. Just that was the best part of the game, and you missed out on it. And they also had a crossplay too, so we could get more people to play too. That'd be great.
Maybe I'll pick it up one day on a Steam sale, and we'll try again.
My third hype is for another announcement that we got today about a new project. It was so a couple years ago, developers from CD Projekt Red, left the company, and they went and formed their own development studio called Dark Passenger. And today
You have my attention, Chris Davis. He has no idea why, but he...
Oh, wait. Just you wait. So they announced their first project that has been in pre-production for about 2 years now. It has no title yet, but they have a product page with some...
Dexter game.
No. They have a website with an overview of what this game is going to be. This is a first-person action game set in feudal Japan, in which you play PvP and PvE with co-op online. And there goes Nick's face. And you just you roam feudal Japan countryside, and you do stuff as either ninjas or ronin or stuff like that.
Oh, fuck. That sounded cool, except for the... No, never mind. Maybe it's cool. I'm not going to judge.
Quoting, you taking the role of shinobi and kunoichi warriors, players will face acolytes of the usurper to the shogun, but also other assassins that are hunting for the same finds and stuff. It honestly
sounds horribly worded.
Yeah, it's I didn't read the whole quote, but
I feel like we don't get a lot of first-person games set in feudal Japan, so that in and of itself is kind of an interesting choice. But
honestly, the way I read this and the way they're describing it, it kind of sounds like ex-CDP are making their own first-person open-world Tenchu game, or
online.
Yeah, I mean online, but that's a fucking exciting idea. So I really am looking forward to following up on this project. I will paste the link to the project in chat.
Cool. Nolan, your turn.
So, I don't know what that was. My 4-player thought minute finale starts now. Pretty excited about Timberborn. I've been having some fun playing it. Excited to see where that goes. What is in store for me and my Beavers in the future. And the other thing that I'm pretty hyped for is that Lucas Pope announced that Paper Please is coming to mobile on August 5th. Yes. And he also mentioned that he's on track for a console release in 2031. And our beloved Chris Hecker responded, "Hey, don't rush it." For those that don't know, Chris Hecker, the creator of Spy Party.
We saw and we saw Spy Party at PAX for like 8 years in a row.
Yeah. So
we saw that game when it didn't even have an art style.
Correct, it did not. So pretty hyped for that. I love Papers, Please. I've kind of been in a mood to play it, and I keep like coming so close to booting it up. But I think this will be the final push. Is it coming to mobile as well?
Nice.
But anyway, that's it for me.
Fantastic. All right, Krispy.
Okay. So amongst the other games that I was perusing in my post Monster Hunter on Wii, one of the games that I booted up and played a bit of was Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh.
And I didn't really want to talk about it on the podcast because it's like, we've talked about it and it's all there. But
and early access.
Since last time I played, they've added new classes, they've added new races. The most recent class additions were the Bard, and then I think like the Druid before that. And let me tell you something. That game's fucking sick. Like, it's so good.
I cannot wait to play that game.
I'm
waiting
like,
for 1.0 is killing me, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to be next year.
Yeah.
Early next year probably. But it's so good. I mean, it has it all. It it takes everything that I was a little meh on about in Divinity Original Sin 2 and just, replaces it with Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is incredible. uh literally the other day I had a D&D session over the weekend and I was really excited about it, and I was like, oh man, just I wish it was tomorrow. I just want to play, blah blah blah. And I was like, fuck it. And I booted up Baldur's Gate, and it totally
scratch the itch.
Kind of did, not entirely, obviously, but it kind of did. It was the best. It was the most yep, this is what I want to be doing. This is great. The session I was playing in was a session 1 of a new campaign, and I was making a warlock, so I was playing Baldur's Gate, and I was like, I'm gonna make a fucking warlock just to see what it's like, I picked all the same spells that I ended up picking in the tabletop version of D&D, and was just messing around with them and having fun. I fucking love Baldur's Gate, man. That shit is so cool. It's so cool, and I can't wait for it to come out. And I just wanted, I don't want to hear whatever you're gonna say. What?
No. This is you love D&D, and I'm sure it's deserving of your love, right? How much of your excitement of this being D&D has to do with your familiarity with D&D? I mean, does that make it inherently more exciting because I know this and I know a lot about this?
I think it's part of it. I think it's part of it. I mean, you mean in comparison to Divinity
or anything? There's other
asking,
pen and paper,
going to feel less approachable
fiction
if you're not
stuff.
If you're not intimately familiar with
the fiction,
D&D.
If it was a Pathfinder game, you're not excited about a Pathfinder game as much as...
I play Pathfinder now, and I've been getting into the lore of Pathfinder. And
but that's
cool.
No.
Hang on. The soft aspects of the game, the story, the lore, the setting, there was stuff about that in Divinity that I was kind of okay, whatever. That is different and more familiar, quote unquote, to me. In Baldur's Gate, and that's part of what I was referencing. Even if it's something stupid I just don't like the way elves look. I don't like anything about the lore of elves in Divinity, and D&D has elves that I'm used to, that I like, so that's a thing, that's part of it. I do think the mechanics, I think there's things about this that are different from Divinity in ways that I really like, but that aren't just it makes it like D&D. Do you know what I mean? There are things in this that I think are true synthesis, is a true synthesis of stuff that I like about D&D, but also stuff that I liked about Divinity, but finds a nice balance between the two. Magic, I think, is a perfect example of this. I love the way that elemental magic worked in Divinity, right? It was all about battlefield control. It was all about terrain and interaction between elements, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's never really been the main focus of Magic in D&D, because Magic in D&D is just all over the place. I mean, whole books of spells that have nothing to do with combat whatsoever, just everything. But you can tell while the sort of terrain based magic effects aren't quite as front and center in Baldur's Gate as they were in Divinity, you can tell that they, were yeah, that's a good gameplay mechanic and that works. So they've imported a lot of that same philosophy into Baldur's Gate without making all of your spells have specific classical elements, they didn't have to completely reinvent the magic system in order to take what was cool about magic in Divinity and bring it into 5th edition D&D. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate that. I think that's really cool. I think that is a great example of how Baldur's Gate 3 specifically is more than just kind of the sum of its parts,
Yeah.
And the lore is really fucking sick. Like, let me tell you, they're putting out a new campaign box next month. That's Spelljammer. First time in 30 years that they put out Spelljammer stuff, which is the like space fantasy of D&D. It's all like magic sailing ships in magic space with like magic space pirates and things like that. And you get some of that shit. You get some of that shit in the beginning of Baldur's Gate with the Illithids, you know, because you're like on a Nautiloid ship flying through the 9 hells, like fighting dragons and shit. Like, fuck, I love it. It's so cool. Like, it's so cool.
My body is ready.
It's so fucking cool, man. Like, yeah, I just wanted to say in my incredibly long 4-player minute that Baldur's Gate 3 is still pretty cool.
Did you happen to pick up the re-release of Dark Alliance 2?
No.
Okay.
No. All
right.
What? I don't. Fuck that. What?
All right. My turn. This is my 4-player minute. My 4-player minute starts right now. I got 2 things I wanted to mention. One is, two hypes. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out on Friday, and I have somehow been convinced to play this. I think
it was
Brad
just
is,
a suggestion.
No. I know. I'm
there was no
being,
convincing.
I know. I'm teasing. I'm using playful language.
You say that, but then you turned a like, hey, maybe try that new Pokemon into like some big thing with me, and I'm like, geez, I just like mentioned it one day, and you're like, Brad made me play this garbage. Brad, I don't want you doing that shit with Xenoblade.
Brett, you know me. You know how this podcast works. We bust each other's balls about this shit. We've been busting each other's balls about this shit for like over 10 years. Like,
you still haven't played Chicory. Like, you're gonna take it to your deathbed. Brad made me play RCS.
I did buy it though. I did buy Chicory on the Steam sale.
Oh well, there you go.
It's now officially in my possession. Yeah. But no. I'm just in all seriousness. I think you did make a good point, Brad. About first of all, Xenoblade has been reviewing very, very, very well. So I watched a couple of videos, including the one that you sent me, about kind of explaining what Xenoblade actually is. And I was also under the impression that the ship had kind of sailed for me because I didn't play Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, or X. And I thought they were all interconnected. I didn't realize Xenoblade Chronicles is like kind of like Final Fantasy in that every single game is like a different story with new characters and a new setting kind of thing. So when I found out that, I was like, okay, I suddenly kind of feel like,
well, they're connected in like a Chris Davis way.
Yeah.
Not like ways. A practical way.
I'm not going to like be super lost or confused purely based on the fact that I haven't played the first few games.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Brad made a good point that like there is something about these kinds of games with, you know, these like anime-ish RPGs that kind of appeals to me, and I've been looking for a game to kind of like scratch that itch, and I thought it was going to be Tales of Arise, and I played Tales of Arise for like 20 hours, and it wasn't quite there. And I think Xenoblade Chronicles might be the one that scratches the itch.
If you're okay with those accents, because man, you know, that's like, you know, like the elves in Divinity Original Sin, man.
Disgusting.
Those
accents. Gross.
Wait,
just
what
so
kind of accents
fucking gross. Why are they so veiny? Like what?
Okay. Calm down, killer. Calm down.
Whatever.
Okay. The other part of this is like this is gonna sound like such a first world problem. I know. I swear to God. I'm so sorry, but like I'm sitting here thinking about like the only problem about playing Xenoblade Chronicles is that it's on the Switch, and I've been taking my Steam Deck with me like everywhere I go, and now I'm gonna be like, I can't take both. That would be ridiculous. So I'm gonna have to like I'm gonna put my Steam Deck down for a while. I'm gonna pick my Switch back up, and I feel like I'm gonna have like. I'm gonna be like, I miss my Steam Deck, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. I gotta pick my Switch up eventually. You know, I still got Rabbids to play. I got Zelda to play. I like Metroid. You know, whatever. I'm gonna miss my Steam Deck though. My other hype that I wanted to mention is that next week, I mentioned this on my stream last week. I played Madison. Loved that game. I love this type of horror game. Talked about it on the show last week. I think Madison ultimately ended up delivering kind of what I was hoping it would. Had a great experience with it. Scared the living shit out of me. Next week on my stream on Tuesday, I'm going to be playing the next like kind of hyper realistic horror game called The Mortuary Assistant. I played a demo of this on the stream a while back, and that is kind of like PT Madison Visage kind of thing, but the kicker is you're in a funeral home and you're like working overnight and you're preparing the bodies, like embalming and that kind of stuff. And it has this whole other element where you're kind of like documenting this shit, and like then creepy shit starts happening, and like I'm ready. What's up, Brad?
Gotta go. Bye.
Oh, bye, Brad. Thank you for letting us know. But yeah, the Mortuary Assistant, I'm going to be streaming that on my starting on Tuesday. That's August 2nd, I believe. So if you want to hang out and check that game out, tune in. It's exciting. It's 2 of like 3 of these kind of style games that are coming out this year, and I'm very excited to play it. And it's going to scare the shit out of me. I'm sure the demo did. So yeah. And that's all I got. That's it. Also, Daredevil's coming back, baby. I'm pretty excited. Forgot to mention that. It's happening. All right. That's it. That's a show tonight, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for what's up.
What's your favorite run of Daredevil?
Shut up, Krispy.
Okay.
My favorite run of Daredevil was season 3 of the show.
Was the Charlie Cox run?
Yeah, the Charlie Cox run, exactly. The only thing they haven't confirmed yet is whether or not the actors who play Karen and Foggy are coming back. But I would imagine they are. If they're bringing back Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, it would make sense to not bring them back. But anyways,
I mean, they work too well off one another, so
they did. That was great. I can't wait.
Their absence would be very noticeable.
I will say this: the show is called Daredevil: Born Again, and I did go back and research that run to find out what that's referencing. And Jesus Christ, that's some dark shit. I don't know. I don't know how, yeah, but it's like it's a Disney Plus show. Like how
don't worry,
they'll
just butcher the fuck out of it. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Cool.
It'll be an adaptation in name alone.
But like, what the weirdest thing about that announcement is that they announced that it's coming back as a Disney Plus series, right? But it's an 18 episode run.
That's a lot.
I mean, like, why would they not just announce like the first season is like 9 episodes or something, and then do a second season?
Well, no, they announced 18 episodes for the first season.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Is weird. That is bizarre. Like shows, even like primetime cable shows these days, I don't think most shows these days run with that many episodes.
Shows that run with that kind of episode count are like the half an hour shows.
Soap operas.
Well, no, like half hour shows are like cartoons.
Right.
Cartoons will have like 26 episode orders, but they're like 15 minutes long.
And these are presumably going to be about 40 to 45 minutes each, I would imagine. But you know what? Whatever. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I've been asking for Daredevil to come back for ages, and it's finally confirmed. It's finally happening, and that's exciting. But anyways, like I said, that's our show tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. 4playernetwork.com is, of course, the website where you can find all of our episodes. You can also find us on all of your favorite podcast platforms. If you want to join our community, it's free. Join us at discord.gg/4player. We'd love to have you in there. We're always in there hanging out, talking about the stuff that we love, maybe the stuff that we don't love, weird shit, I don't know. All kinds of cool stuff happening there. And if you want to support us financially, you can go to patreon.com/4player, throw us a few bucks, help us out, help us pay for our hosting costs and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's it tonight, guys. We'll see you next week for another episode. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.